Pretend to be my boyfriend for 5 minutes, she whispered urgently to the intimidating stranger at the bar, her voice trembling with desperation as her ex approached through the glittering charity gala crowd. The man turned slowly, his piercing blue eyes sweeping over her with cold calculation that made her heart stutter in her chest. Scarlett Wilson was exactly 12 seconds away from the most recklessly brave thing she'd ever done in her 22 years of life. Student loans drowning her, a basement apartment flooding, and now her cheating ex Bradley strutting toward her with the blonde who'd replaced her just 3 weeks after their breakup. The stranger's expression darkened as he assessed her. Designer dress that wasn't hers, borrowed jewelry, and the unmistakable panic of someone cornered. "You have 30 seconds to explain why I shouldn't have security remove you," he said, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "My ex stole my financial algorithm, got me demoted, then dumped me by text, and he's walking this way with his new girlfriend." Scarlett rushed out, desperation making her braver than she'd ever been. "Just 5 minutes of pretending we're together, then I'll disappear forever." Esto, candelabras the size of small cars hung from the ceiling, casting golden light across faces of New York's elite as Bradley approached with his trademark smug smile. The Italian marble beneath Scarlett's borrowed heels probably cost more than her entire college education, making her feel even more out of place. Something shifted in the stranger's eyes, a flicker of interest, perhaps amusement at her audacity. 5 minutes, he agreed with dangerous softness, before sliding an arm around her waist with practiced ease, pulling her close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. Bradley was 9 meters away when the stranger leaned down to whisper in her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "My name is Alexei Petrov, and for the next 5 minutes, you belong to me. But there's a condition to our arrangement that will terrify you when you learn it." The way Alexei's hand possessively settled at the small of her back sent an unexpected shiver up Scarlett's spine. This wasn't just any wealthy businessman. The immediate deference of the security personnel, the subtle nods from powerful men across the room, the wide berth others gave him, all suggested something far more dangerous. Bradley's steps faltered as he noticed her tucked against Alexei's side, his expression morphing from smug superiority to confused disbelief. The blonde beside him whispered something, her eyes widening in recognition as she stared at the man holding Scarlett. "That's your ex?" Alexei asked, his voice laced with something that sounded dangerously like genuine interest. "The one who stole your algorithm for predictive market analysis and got you demoted at Zenith Financial." Scarlett's head snapped up in shock. She hadn't mentioned those specific details, and the predatory smile that crossed Alexei's face made her stomach drop. He knew things about her that she hadn't shared, which could only mean he was someone powerful enough to access private information within minutes. "Let's make this convincing, shall we?" Alexei murmured, his fingers gently tilting her chin upward as Bradley and his date reached them. The entire ballroom seemed to freeze in that cinematic way where even dust particles stopped floating in the air. "Scarlett?" Bradley's voice cracked slightly, his gaze darting nervously between her and Alexei. "I didn't expect to see you here. This is certainly a surprise." The blonde beside Bradley had gone pale, tugging urgently at his sleeve as she whispered something that made his face drain of color. Alexei's reputation clearly preceded him, and whatever that reputation was, it terrified the couple standing before them. "Bradley Thompson," Alexei said, his voice deceptively pleasant as his arm tightened around Scarlett's waist. "The algorithm you presented to the board last month. Fascinating work, though I suspect the original creator might have approached certain elements differently." The charity gala melted into a blur around Scarlett, as Bradley stammered excuses before retreating with his date, leaving her alone with the dangerous stranger whose arm still encircled her waist. "Your 5 minutes are up," Alexei stated, checking his watch with casual precision. "Thank you," Scarlett whispered, stepping back only to find his hand remaining firmly at her waist, preventing her retreat. His eyes had changed, calculating now, assessing her as if she were a particularly interesting puzzle he'd discovered unexpectedly. "That algorithm your ex stole, it predicted market fluctuations with 93% accuracy, didn't it?" Alexei asked, leading her toward a quieter corner of the ballroom where crystal champagne flutes gleamed under the chandeliers. "A breakthrough that would have made you rather valuable." Scarlett felt her heart thundering against her ribs, part fear and part something else she couldn't quite name. "How could you possibly know that level of detail about my work?" she asked, her voice barely audible above the orchestra. "I make it my business to know valuable things and valuable people. Alexei replied, signaling a waiter who appeared instantly with fresh champagne. Your ex works for Carson Investment Group, which recently acquired a suspicious edge in certain markets. The champagne tasted like fear and possibility on Scarlett's tongue as she processed his words, the implications spiraling through her mind. Why would someone like you care about my algorithm or what happened to me at a mid-level financial firm? Alexei's smile was sharp enough to cut glass as he leaned closer, his voice dropping to ensure only she could hear him. Because Carson Investment Group launders money for my competitors, and your algorithm could help me dismantle them brick by expensive brick. You're not just wealthy, Scarlett whispered as realization dawned, her eyes widening as security personnel discreetly repositioned themselves around the room, all focused on protecting the man before her. You're Alexei Petrov, head of the Petrov Syndicate. Scarlett had exactly 3 options. Run screaming from the most dangerous man in New York, walk away and pretend this encounter never happened, or listen to the offer she could see forming behind those calculating blue eyes. Her student loans, flooded apartment, and ruined career flashed through her mind. I have a proposition that extends beyond our 5-minute arrangement, Alexei said, his fingertips lightly tracing the bare skin of her arm in a touch that was both threat and promise. Continue this charade for 3 months as my girlfriend, help me recover your algorithm, and I'll give you everything your ex took from you. The weight of his offer hung between them like an elegant guillotine, tempting and terrifying in equal measure. And if I refuse? Scarlett asked, already suspecting the answer wouldn't be simple freedom to walk away. Then I'll simply acquire your algorithm through other means. Your ex will mysteriously lose everything he stole from you, and you'll forever wonder what might have happened if you'd said yes, Alexei replied, his thumb brushing across her lower lip with surprising gentleness. Scarlett felt the room spin slightly, champagne and adrenaline creating a dangerous cocktail in her veins as she considered his words. 3 months pretending to be your girlfriend seems like a steep price when you could just take what you want from Bradley without my help. The subtle shift in Alexei's expression sent warning signals racing through her body, predatory interest replacing casual amusement. But taking what I want through you would be far more satisfying, wouldn't it? He murmured, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. What exactly would being your girlfriend entail? Scarlett asked, painfully aware of how out of her depth she was, standing in borrowed finery negotiating with a man who controlled half of New York's underworld. I need to understand the terms before I agree to anything. Public appearances, accompanying me to business functions, living in my penthouse where I can ensure your safety, Alexei listed casually, as if offering a standard business contract rather than completely upending her existence, and helping me understand exactly how your algorithm works. The orchestra transitioned to a waltz, strings swelling through the ballroom as Alexei guided Scarlett to the dance floor, with the natural authority of someone who had never been refused. His hand at her waist was both possessive and respectful, contradictions that made her head spin. You want me to live with you? Scarlett asked, the reality of what she was considering finally hitting her with full force as they moved seamlessly into the dance. My entire life in exchange for revenge against my ex? Alexei guided her through a turn, his movements graceful despite his imposing presence, watching the calculations happening behind her eyes with evident fascination. I'm offering much more than revenge, Scarlett. I'm offering your future back, upgraded beyond what you could achieve alone. Security personnel remained positioned at strategic points around the ballroom, their attention never wavering from Alexei despite their unobtrusive presence. The message was clear. He was dangerous enough to need constant protection, yet powerful enough to appear completely at ease. The clause that would terrify me, Scarlett remembered suddenly, her steps faltering slightly before Alexei smoothly corrected their rhythm. You mentioned a condition to our arrangement that would frighten me. What is it? Something like approval flickered in Alexei's eyes at her direct question, his hand tightening slightly at her waist. When our 3 months conclude, if we recover your algorithm and dismantle Carson's operation, you become officially part of my organization, permanently. The implication hung between them, clear as the diamonds dripping from the necks of New York's elite surrounding them on the dance floor. There would be no walking away, no returning to normal life once she stepped into Alexei's world. She would belong to the Petrov organization forever. Why me? Scarlett asked, the most important question of all as the music swelled around them. You could hire any financial expert in the city. Why insist on bringing me into your world when I'm nobody? Alexei's eyes darkened as he studied her face, seeing past the borrowed dress and jewelry to something that apparently intrigued him. Because you created something brilliant. had it stolen, and instead of breaking, you walked up to the most dangerous man in the room and made a demand. Their dance had drawn attention, whispers following them across the floor, as New York's elite speculated about the unknown woman in Alexei Petrov's arms. Bradley stood at the edge of the ballroom, his face a mask of confusion and growing fear as he watched them. "My flood-damaged apartment and mountain of debt against your penthouse and protection," Scarlett summarized, weighing her options as Alexei guided her through another flawless turn. "Plus the chance to reclaim my work and see justice served to those who stole from me." The music reached its crescendo as Alexei leaned down, his lips brushing against her ear in what would appear to onlookers as an intimate gesture between lovers. "You have until midnight to decide, Scarlett Wilson. Walk back into your struggling life, or step into my world and never look back." Scarlett felt her heart racing as the full weight of her choice pressed down upon her. Security or freedom, revenge or principles, a dangerous new world or the familiar struggle of her old one. The algorithm had been her ticket out of poverty, her chance at a real future. As the dance ended, Alexei released her with practiced grace, stepping back just enough to study her expression. "What's your answer, Scarlett?" he asked, the entire weight of her future suspended in the space between his question and her response. "Yes," Scarlett whispered, the single syllable changing the trajectory of her life as decisively as a bullet fired from a gun. "I accept your terms, every last one of them. Every..." Scarlett's basement apartment seemed impossibly small and shabby when she returned that night to collect her belongings, the ceiling still dripping from the flood that had ruined what little she owned. She packed her life into 2 suitcases, clothes, books, her backup hard drive, and a framed photo of her parents. The sleek black Bentley waited at the curb, Alexei's driver standing at attention beside it, while curious neighbors peered through curtains at the luxury vehicle that had no business in their rundown neighborhood. The transition from her world to his would begin with this single step. Alexei's penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of one of Manhattan's most exclusive buildings, with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing a glittering panorama of the city spread out like a carpet of stars beneath them. His kingdom of steel and glass, wealth and power made manifest in architectural perfection. "Your room," Alexei stated simply, leading her into a suite larger than her entire apartment, decorated in cream and gold with a king-sized bed and an adjoining bathroom of Italian marble, though we'll need to share mine occasionally for appearances when certain associates visit. A closet already filled with designer clothes in her size awaited her. Dresses, shoes, lingerie, all selected with meticulous attention to detail, and a taste level that made Scarlett's borrowed gala dress look cheap by comparison. The price tags had been removed, but she recognized brands that she'd only seen in magazines. "Your workstation," Alexei continued, leading her to a state-of-the-art home office adjacent to his own, equipped with technology more advanced than anything Zenith Financial had provided. "Everything you need to recreate your algorithm is here, including servers powerful enough to run your most complex calculations." Scarlett's fingertips hovered over the keyboard, her mind already racing with the possibilities this equipment offered, not just recreating her stolen work, but improving it, elevating it beyond what she'd been able to achieve with the limited resources previously available to her. "Your allowance," Alexei added casually, sliding a black credit card across the desk toward her, watching her reaction with those calculating eyes. "Use it for whatever you need. Clothes, personal items, books, entertainment. Consider it a signing bonus for our arrangement." The message behind his generosity was clear. She would want for nothing material during their agreement, but the golden cage, no matter how spacious and luxurious, remained a cage nonetheless. Her freedom was the price she'd willingly agreed to pay for this chance at reclaiming her future. "Tomorrow you'll meet my inner circle. They need to believe our relationship is genuine," Alexei explained over dinner served by his personal chef on the terrace overlooking Central Park. "Learn these details about me. Memorize our cover story for how we met." The dossier he provided contained information that no public record would have: his favorite wine, Chateau Margaux, 1982, his morning routine, 5 a.m. workout followed by black coffee, his true business holdings beyond the legitimate front companies. The level of trust implied by this information was either a test or a trap. "Your ex works directly under Richard Carson himself," Alexei revealed, sliding surveillance photos across the dining table that showed Bradley entering private meetings with the investment firm's CEO. "He didn't just steal your algorithm. He sold you out completely to advance his own position." The sting of betrayal felt fresh again as Scarlett examined the photos, recognizing timestamps that coincided exactly with the weeks Bradley had claimed to be working late during their relationship. He hadn't just stolen her work. He'd used their relationship to spy on her progress. "One final detail before tomorrow," Alexei said, his voice deceptively casual as he reached across the table to take her hand, his thumb brushing over her ring finger. "You'll need to wear this to make our story convincing." The diamond engagement ring he slid onto her finger caught the evening light in blinding facets, the weight of it both physical and symbolic, as Scarlett stared at the enormous stone now marking her as Alexei Petrov's claimed territory. Their charade had just escalated from dating to engaged. 6 weeks into their arrangement, Scarlett barely recognized her reflection in the mirror. Designer clothes, professionally styled hair, and a confidence that came from walking into rooms on Alexei Petrov's arm, watching powerful men defer to her out of respect for him. The borrowed sense of power was intoxicating. Zenith Financial's quarterly gala provided the perfect opportunity for her first public appearance back in her old professional world, this time as the fiancée of one of New York's most feared and respected businessmen. Her former colleagues would finally see what she had become. Alexei's hand rested possessively at the small of her back as they entered the hotel ballroom, his touch now familiar after weeks of practiced intimacy that sometimes, in unguarded moments, felt dangerous, close to genuine. The room fell silent as they appeared, all eyes drawn to the power couple commanding attention without effort. "Scarlett Wilson?" her former manager stammered, champagne sloshing over the rim of his glass as he took an involuntary step backward. "We didn't expect, that is, we weren't aware you'd be attending tonight." "Charles," she acknowledged with cool politeness that masked the satisfaction bubbling beneath her composed exterior. "Allow me to introduce my fiancé, Alexei Petrov. He's considering a substantial investment in Zenith's new market expansion." The color drained from Charles's face as he connected the dots. The analyst he'd demoted and discarded was now engaged to a man whose reputation preceded him. A man who could buy and sell Zenith Financial 10 times over, with resources that existed in shadowy corners of the financial world. Bradley froze across the room when he spotted them, his new girlfriend clinging to his arm as Alexei deliberately steered Scarlett in their direction, the crowd parting before them like water breaking around the bow of a ship. The confrontation Scarlett had both dreaded and craved was imminent. "Bradley," Scarlett greeted him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, feeling Alexei's arm tighten around her waist in subtle support. "How interesting to see you here, still enjoying the fruits of other people's labor." The double meaning wasn't lost on Bradley, who glanced nervously between Scarlett and Alexei, clearly recognizing the threat beneath the polite veneer of her question. "Scarlett, congratulations on your engagement," he managed, voice strained to breaking point. "Mr. Thompson has been explaining to Zenith's board how he developed that remarkable market prediction algorithm," Alexei said conversationally, though his eyes held the cold calculation of a predator assessing its prey. "Perhaps you could clarify which parts were your original contribution, Bradley." The room around them had gone quiet, senior executives and board members now watching the exchange with undisguised interest as Bradley's face flushed deep red. "I don't know what you're implying, but the algorithm was developed under my supervision as team lead." "How fascinating," Alexei replied, his smile sharp enough to draw blood. "Because my fiancé has the original code with timestamps dating back 18 months, well before you joined the development team." The CEO of Zenith Financial approached cautiously, drawn by the growing tension and the whispers spreading through the ballroom like wildfire. "Mr. Petrov, what exactly are you suggesting about our proprietary trading algorithm?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Alexei responded smoothly, maintaining his perfect composure while Bradley seemed to shrink beside them. "I'm stating that your proprietary system was stolen from its original creator, who happens to be my future wife." Scarlett felt a surge of vindication as the CEO's gaze shifted to her, recognition dawning in his eyes as he reassessed the analyst who'd been demoted after Bradley's accusations of incompetence. The power dynamic had shifted completely, the scales finally balancing after months of injustice. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," the CEO suggested, gesturing toward a side room while shooting a warning glance at Bradley, along with the possibility of rectifying any misunderstandings about the algorithm's development. As they followed the CEO, Scarlett felt Alexei's lips brush against her ear, his voice low enough for only her to hear. "You see how easily the world bends when you hold the right cards," he murmured, his breath warm against her skin. By evening's end, Scarlett had been offered her position back at triple her former salary, Bradley had been suspended pending an investigation, and Alexei had negotiated a partnership between Zenith Financial and his legitimate business holdings that would integrate her algorithm across both organizations. The black sedan had been following them for 3 blocks, maintaining a consistent distance as Alexei's driver navigated through midtown Manhattan traffic with practiced precision. Scarlett noticed the tension in Alexei's shoulders, the subtle hand signal he gave to his security detail in the front seat. "The Baranov family disagrees with my recent business decisions," Alexei explained calmly, though his eyes continuously tracked the vehicle behind them through the side mirror. "They believe your algorithm gives me an unfair advantage in certain markets they consider their territory." Scarlett felt fear crawl up her spine as she processed his words. Her work, her creation had inadvertently drawn her into a conflict between rival organizations, powerful enough to make people disappear without a trace. The stakes of their arrangement had just escalated dramatically. "When we return to the penthouse, pack enough for 3 days," Alexei instructed, as his driver executed a series of rapid turns designed to lose their tail. "My estate in the Hamptons has better security, and I need you somewhere defensible until this situation resolves." The estate turned out to be a fortress disguised as a luxury property, bulletproof windows, security cameras covering every angle, and a team of guards patrolling the perimeter with military precision. Scarlett watched them from the master bedroom window, reality sinking in with crushing weight. "You've made remarkable progress rebuilding the algorithm," Alexei commented that evening as they reviewed her work in his study, the Atlantic Ocean visible through panoramic windows beyond his desk. "The predictive accuracy has improved beyond what you achieved at Zenith." The pride in his voice seemed genuine, and Scarlett found herself responding to it despite her better judgment, explaining the refinements she'd implemented with the superior resources now at her disposal. Her creation was evolving into something far more powerful than she'd initially envisioned. "There's a vulnerability in the Carson Investment Group's network that your algorithm identified," Alexei revealed, sliding a tablet toward her that displayed a complex pattern of transactions. "Their money laundering operation for the Baranov family leaves digital fingerprints that match your prediction model." Understanding dawned as Scarlett examined the data. Her algorithm had become a weapon in a war between criminal enterprises, identifying weaknesses that could bring down entire organizations. This was why Alexei had wanted her, not just her creation, but her ability to interpret its findings. "You never intended to just reclaim my work from them," Scarlett stated, looking up from the tablet to meet Alexei's steady gaze. "You wanted to use it to destroy your competition completely, to reshape the entire financial underground of New York." Instead of denying it, Alexei simply nodded, watching her process this revelation with that same calculating interest he'd shown since the night of the charity gala. "The question is, whether that bothers you enough to break our agreement, knowing what the Baranovs would do to acquire your skills." The threat wasn't subtle. She'd become too valuable, knew too much to simply walk away now that she understood the true scope of his plans. The golden cage had just become considerably smaller, the price of her ambition higher than she'd anticipated. "You've grown attached to me," Scarlett observed suddenly, recognizing something beneath his calculated exterior that he hadn't intended to reveal. "This isn't just business anymore, is it?" Something flashed in Alexei's eyes, surprise perhaps at her perception, quickly masked behind his usual controlled expression. "Attachments are liabilities in my world," he replied, neither confirming nor denying her observation. "Yet you've made me a very visible attachment. Public appearances, the engagement announcement in the financial press, introducing me to your inner circle," Scarlett pressed, gaining confidence as she recognized the leverage his growing feelings provided. "You're risking a significant liability." Alexei moved around his desk with fluid grace, closing the distance between them until she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Perhaps I've calculated that the benefits outweigh the risks," he murmured, his fingers lightly tracing the curve of her jaw. The security alarm shattered the moment, red warning lights bathing the study in crimson as Alexei instantly shifted from potential lover to predator, drawing a concealed weapon from beneath his jacket. "Safe room now," he ordered, all pretense of normal life evaporating in an instant. The safe room was a technological marvel buried beneath Alexei's Hamptons estate, with reinforced steel walls, independent air supply, and surveillance monitors showing every corner of the property. Scarlett watched in horror as masked figures swarmed the grounds, engaging in firefights with Alexei's security team. "How did they find us here?" she whispered, counting at least 15 attackers moving with military precision through the gardens. The level of coordination suggested this was no impulsive attack, but a carefully planned assault. Alexei's expression darkened as he studied the surveillance feeds, tapping commands into a secure terminal that brought up communication logs. "Someone inside my organization gave them our location," he stated, voice cold with the promise of retribution. The monitors showed Alexei's security team gradually gaining the upper hand, forcing the attackers to retreat toward waiting vehicles at the property's edge. Scarlett felt sick watching the violence unfold, the abstract danger of her situation becoming brutally concrete before her eyes. "That's not Baranov's team," Alexei observed, zooming in on one of the retreating figures whose mask had slipped, revealing a distinctive tattoo on his neck. "Those are Carson's private security contractors, mercenaries he uses for operations his regular employees can't know about." Scarlett's blood turned to ice as a familiar figure appeared on one of the monitors, directing the retreat from the tree line at the property's perimeter. "Bradley," she breathed, recognizing her ex-boyfriend even at a distance, in tactical gear rather than his usual designer suits. "Your former lover appears to have deeper connections than I anticipated," Alexei said, his voice dangerously calm as he watched Bradley coordinate the extraction of the remaining attackers. "He's not just Carson's puppet. He's actively involved in their operations." The revelation clicked other pieces into place. Bradley's unexplained wealth during their relationship, his frequent business trips that coincided with major market shifts, the convenient timing of his discovery of her algorithm. He had been Carson's plant from the beginning. "He dated me to spy on my research," Scarlett realized, anger replacing fear as the full scope of Bradley's betrayal became clear. "He never cared about me. I was just an assignment, a target to be monitored until my work was valuable enough to steal." Alexei's hand came to rest at the small of her back, the gesture now familiar and oddly comforting despite the circumstances. "Which means Carson's organization now considers you a critical asset to be acquired or eliminated," he concluded, eyes never leaving the monitor showing Bradley's retreat. "The corporate gala tomorrow night," Scarlett said suddenly, remembering the invitation that had arrived at the penthouse last week. "Carson himself will be there, along with every major player in New York's financial world. It would be the perfect place to confront them both." The designer gown Alexei had specially commissioned for her hung in the safe room's attached closet, deep crimson silk that would make her impossible to ignore, a statement of power rather than just beauty. Every detail of their appearance tomorrow night would be choreographed for maximum psychological impact, from the jewelry she would wear to the security detail that would flank them, all designed to project unshakable confidence despite the danger. Alexei turned to her with newfound respect in his eyes, the calculation there now including her as a partner rather than an asset. "It would also be the perfect trap if they're expecting us to attend," he countered, already considering angles she hadn't anticipated. "Then we use their trap against them," Scarlett proposed, the algorithm developer in her seeing patterns and possibilities that hadn't been apparent before. "We leak information suggesting we'll bring evidence of their money laundering operation to federal authorities at the gala." A slow, predatory smile spread across Alexei's face as he recognized the elegance of her suggestion, "forcing them to act on our terms, in a public venue where their options will be limited," he finished, already seeing how the pieces would fall into place. The next 24 hours passed in a flurry of preparation, security arrangements, evidence compilation, and a crash course in close-quarters self-defense from Alexei's head of security. Scarlett absorbed it all, driven by a determination that surprised even her as the pieces of their counterattack fell into place. The Metropolitan Museum's Temple of Dendur provided a dramatic backdrop for the annual financial gala, ancient Egyptian stone illuminated by sophisticated lighting as New York's elite mingled among priceless artifacts. Scarlett felt the weight of the concealed recording device beneath her couture gown as Alexei led her through the crowded exhibition hall. Their entrance created the expected stir, whispers following in their wake, as financial power brokers and socialites speculated about the notorious Alexei Petrov and his fiancée attending such a public event after the rumors of an attack on his Hamptons estate. The news had traveled quickly through certain circles despite attempts to contain it. Richard Carson stood conversing with board members near the temple structure, his tailored tuxedo and practiced smile the perfect disguise for the criminal enterprise he operated beneath his legitimate business. Beside him, Bradley tensed visibly when he spotted Scarlett and Alexei approaching. "Mr. Petrov, Ms. Wilson," Carson greeted them with polished charm that didn't reach his eyes, champagne flute raised in mock salute. "I must say I'm surprised to see you both here after what I heard about the unfortunate incident at your Hamptons property. We've never been ones to miss a good party, Richard," Alexei replied with equal smoothness, his hand resting possessively at Scarlett's waist. Especially one where so many interesting conversations might occur about financial algorithms and their applications. The implied threat hung in the air between them, Carson's smile faltering slightly as his eyes darted to Bradley, who had gone pale beside him. "Perhaps we should discuss such technical matters privately," Carson suggested, gesturing toward a staff-only area behind the temple. Alexei nodded his agreement, signaling subtly to his security team positioned strategically throughout the museum as they followed Carson and Bradley through a service door into a private exhibition preparation room. The trap was springing exactly as they had anticipated. "Let's dispense with the pleasantries," Carson said, once the door closed behind them, his charming facade dropping away to reveal cold calculation. "You have something that belongs to me, and I want it back. The complete algorithm and all development materials." "Interesting perspective," Scarlett replied before Alexei could speak, stepping forward with newfound confidence. "Considering I created the algorithm that Bradley stole on your orders after infiltrating my life for 16 months, specifically to monitor my research." Bradley flinched at her direct accusation, hand moving subtly toward the inside of his jacket, until Alexei's security chief stepped from the shadows, weapon already drawn. "I wouldn't," the security chief advised quietly, professional and deadly serious. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into," Carson hissed, abandoning pretense entirely as he glared at Scarlett. "That algorithm is worth billions when applied to certain international markets. Markets with investors who don't appreciate competitors gaining advantages." The surveillance footage from Alexei's security team played silently on Scarlett's phone screen, showing Bradley meeting with known Baranov enforcers 3 days before the attack on the Hamptons estate. The evidence was damning, capturing the exact moment money changed hands for information about their location and security protocols. "You sold us out for $2 million, Scarlett said, voice steady despite the rage coursing through her veins as she turned the screen toward Bradley. "That's the price you put on my life after stealing my work, my career, and 16 months of my time with your lies." Carson's expression flickered between fury and calculation as he realized the depth of evidence arrayed against them. Not just the algorithm theft, but money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and criminal enterprise charges that would dismantle his entire organization. The prosecutor's dream case laid out in meticulous detail. "The Baranov family sends their regards," Alexei added with dangerous softness, revealing the final piece of their strategy. "They were quite interested to learn about your creative accounting with their funds, particularly the offshore accounts in Singapore where you've been diverting their profits for the past 3 years. "You mean the Baranov family doesn't appreciate you using my work to launder their money through manipulated cryptocurrency fluctuations?" Scarlett countered, watching comprehension dawn in Carson's eyes as he realized exactly how much she knew. "Did they know you were skimming 10% off the top?" Carson's composure cracked completely, rage distorting his features as he lunged toward her, only to freeze as Alexei's gun appeared against his temple. "That's close enough, Richard," Alexei said softly, the quiet tone more threatening than any shout could have been. "You're making a terrible mistake," Carson warned, eyes darting between Scarlett and Alexei as he calculated his dwindling options. "The Baranovs will hunt you both down once they realize you've interfered in our arrangement." "An arrangement that no longer exists," Alexei informed him with cold satisfaction, nodding toward Scarlett, who produced her phone displaying a real-time news alert. "Federal agents raid Baranov family compound. Financial crimes alleged." Bradley broke first, panic overriding loyalty as he saw the walls closing in around them. "It was all Carson's operation," he blurted, ignoring his boss's murderous glare. "I was just following orders. He threatened my family if I didn't help him get Scarlett's algorithm." "A touching display of courage," Alexei commented dryly, never taking his eyes or his gun off Carson as federal agents slipped quietly into the room, badges displayed. "Your cooperation will be noted, I'm sure, though perhaps not as favorably as you hope." As the agents took Carson and Bradley into custody, Scarlett felt a strange emptiness where satisfaction should have been. Justice served, her work reclaimed, her reputation restored, yet the cost had been transformation into someone she barely recognized, someone who navigated criminal enterprises and federal stings with unexpected skill. 3 months to the day after Scarlett had whispered, "Pretend to be my boyfriend," to a dangerous stranger at a charity gala, she stood on the terrace of Alexei's, their penthouse, watching Manhattan glitter below as the sun set over the Hudson River. Their agreement had officially ended, yet she remained. Your algorithm has been fully reinstated as your intellectual property, Alexei said, joining her at the railing with 2 glasses of champagne. Zenith Financial has issued a public apology. Carson's assets have been frozen pending trial, and Bradley is cooperating with federal authorities in exchange for reduced charges. Scarlett accepted the champagne, their fingers brushing in a contact that now felt natural after months of practiced intimacy that had gradually, dangerously, evolved into something neither had anticipated. Everything I wanted when I agreed to our arrangement, she acknowledged. Which means you're free to go, Alexei stated, watching her face carefully as he reminded her of the terms they'd established that night at the gala. Your life is yours again, complete with compensation, recognition, and vindication. The diamond ring still gleamed on her finger, catching the last rays of sunlight in brilliant fractals that seemed to mock the idea of their separation. Is that what you want? Scarlett asked quietly, meeting his gaze directly for perhaps the first time, as equals, rather than contractor and asset. What I want has never been the determining factor in our arrangement, Alexei replied, his usual composure slipping just enough to reveal something honest beneath. The question is what you want, now that our agreement has been fulfilled. The city stretched before them, her old world of financial analysis and corporate ladders accessible once more, with her reputation not just restored but elevated by the public takedown of Carson's operation. She could return to that life with resources and recognition beyond what she'd dreamed possible 3 months ago. I've changed, Scarlett said simply, the understatement almost making her laugh as she considered how profoundly the past 90 days had transformed her. The woman who begged a stranger to pretend to be her boyfriend no longer exists. Alexei's expression softened almost imperceptibly, visible only to someone who had learned to read the subtle shifts in his carefully controlled demeanor. And who exists in her place? He asked, genuine curiosity beneath the question. Someone who sees the world as it truly is, Scarlett answered, turning to face him fully. Someone who understands power and its applications, who has walked in both worlds and can't unsee the connections between them. The penthouse phone rang inside, Alexei's security chief calling with updates on the federal case against Carson, the status of negotiations with the remnants of the Baranov organization, the restructuring of financial territories across the city. Business continued regardless of personal revelations. They're waiting for your decision, Alexei said, after ending the call, and they both knew he wasn't referring to just the business associates on the phone. His entire organization had come to respect Scarlett, to value her insights, to accept her presence at his side not just as a convenient cover, but as a true partner. The original clause that had terrified her now seemed almost inevitable, becoming permanently part of Alexei's world, using her skills to navigate the complex intersection of legitimate finance and shadow economies. What had once appeared a prison now felt like a domain where she could truly excel. I want an equal partnership, Scarlett stated, setting down her champagne glass with deliberate precision. Not as your employee or your asset, or even just your fiancé. As your true partner in every aspect of the organization, acknowledged and respected as such. The city lights reflected in Alexei's eyes as he considered her demand, memories of her evolution flashing through his mind, from the desperate woman in borrowed finery to the strategist who had outmaneuvered Carson and helped dismantle the Baranov network. She had proven herself not just capable, but exceptional in a world that devoured the unprepared. The old guard won't accept you easily, he warned, his thumb tracing the curve of her cheekbone with unexpected gentleness. They respect strength, tradition, bloodlines, things they believe can't be earned or learned but only inherited through generations of loyalty. Scarlett smiled, the expression holding new confidence forged through fire and survival. Then I'll make myself impossible to ignore, by transforming your legitimate holdings with my algorithm, by establishing connections your old guard could never access, by proving that innovation paired with tradition creates something stronger than either alone. The proposal papers already waited on his desk inside, drafted weeks ago when Alexei first recognized the inevitability of this moment, legal documents granting her equal ownership in both his legitimate businesses and the shadow empire that supported them. He had anticipated her choice before she had made it herself, preparing for a future where pretense had become reality. Something like admiration flashed in Alexei's eyes as he considered her demand, recognizing the woman who had emerged from the crucible of the past 3 months, confident, strategic, unafraid to claim her value. You're asking for unprecedented power in an organization built on tradition and hierarchy. I'm asking for what I've earned, Scarlett corrected him, stepping closer until barely inches separated them. My algorithm has transformed your financial operations. My strategies help dismantle your primary competition, and my presence in your life has provided more than just convenient cover. Alexei closed the remaining distance between them, his hand rising to cup her face with unexpected tenderness. "You've never been just convenient cover," he admitted, the closest he'd come to acknowledging feelings that had developed beyond their business arrangement. The kiss was different from the performative displays they'd shared at galas and business functions, genuine, unguarded, without strategic calculation or audience consideration. When they separated, something fundamental had shifted between them, a contract of another kind sealed without words. That incredible moment when Scarlett realized her desperate plea for help had transformed into a powerful empire, built on brilliant minds and unexpected love. What do you think was the most satisfying moment? When Bradley was exposed? When Carson was arrested? Or when Alexei finally admitted his true feelings? Rate this story from 0 to 10 in the comments and tell us which twist shocked you the most. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from.